Isang pagpupugay sa mga bayani na nagbuwis ng buhay para sa minamahal nating Pilipinas. Isama na natin ang mga dakilang overseas Filipino workers sa kanilang pagtitiis para mabigyan ng kinabukasan ang kanilang mga pamilya at sa pangkalahatan ang mapalago ang ekonomiya ng ating bansa. At ngayong panahon ng COVID-19, ang ating mga magigiting na frontliners na patuloy na ginagawang ligtas ang sambayanang Pilipino. Luzon, Visayas, Mindanao, marahay na banggi, maayong gabi sa inyong tanan, good evening. Maligayang araw ng mga bayani, mahal ko ang Pilipinas. Inahandog po ng AYLA-BU Alliance Bicol United at ng runcationPH ang huling bahagi ng L.E.A.D.S series. Nasimulan na po natin ang pag-uusap sa leadership, entrepreneurship, advocacy. At ang pag-uusapan po natin ngayon ay ang serving the public. Kaya inaanyayahan po natin ang lahat ng ating mga manonood na makinig, matuto, at makapag-isip sa diskusyon natin sa araw na ito, serving the public in this pandemic reality. Pinapaalalahanan po natin ang ating mga manonood na mag-post register upang makuha nila ang kanilang mga e-certificates. Sa ating mga manonood, papaalalahanan din po natin na huwag kalimutang mag-shout out ng kanilang mga lugar kung saan sila galing. Ngayon, pasisimulan na po natin ang mga lugar na nanonood sa atin ngayon. Of course, ang mga viewers natin from Silang, Cavite, Tondo, Manila, Daet, Camarines Norte, Olongapo, La Union, San Ildefonso, Bulacan, Iloilo, Carchitorena, Camarines Sur, Bukidnon, Muntinlupa, at as far as Lanao del Norte. Magandang gabi po sa inyong lahat. Nung inilulunsad po namin ang usaping ito, serving the public, wala pong iba na pumasok sa aking isipan, kundi ang panauhin natin ngayon. Isa pong tunay na kaibigan, masipag na lingkod bayan, at tunay na mapagmahal sa magkakape sa bayan ng Silang at sa buong Pilipinas. Anak po ni Apolonio Belamide at ni Matilde, Ted Garcia Belamide, kapatid ni Abby at uncle ni Aquila, ang vice-alkalde ng bayan ng Silang ng Cavite, kagalang-galang Aidel Paul Belamide. Hello Aidel, magandang gabi.
Magandang gabi po, Benedict Ala, at sa lahat ng ating mga manonood sa buong Pilipinas.
Yes, Aidel. So, eto ngayong gabi pag-uusapan natin ngayon about yung naging tungkulin mo bilang Vice Mayor ng Silang. Ano ang mga ginawa mo bilang bilang vice-alkalde, lalong-lalo na sa panahon ng COVID, at mabigyan din natin inspirasyon ang ating mga kababayan sa patuloy na pagsiservisyo mo para sa kanila. So you could actually start your presentation, Aidel.
You can start now?
Yes.
Okay. Let me share my screen. It's not working.
So, Aidel, babanggitin ko din yung mga nanonood pa rin sa atin. Good evening po sa mga taga-Tigaon, Camarines Sur, from Quezon City, Caloocan, Baliwag, Bulacan, Rizal, Santa Maria, Bulacan, Antique, at La Paz, Tarlac. Okay, Aidel, please take it away.
Thank you. Mga kababayan, isa pong mapagpalang gabi sa inyong lahat. Maraming salamat, Benedict Ella and AYLA-BU Alliance Bicol United and runcationPH for inviting me to share with you my thoughts and experiences as a public servant. Thank you, everyone, for joining me in this webinar. It is indeed a huge honor, a huge happiness to be with you all tonight. According to our lolos and lolas, our ancestors long ago were shocked one morning when they found a church at the top of the hill. They thought this church was born from the ground, isinilang sa lupa. Hence, our town was named Silang. My presentation is titled Silang, Birth of Hope and the Reading of Strength during time of pandemic. We ask the question, how do we give birth to hope and rear strength during times of pandemic? Itinatanong natin, paano tayo nagsisilang ng pag-asa at ng lakas ng loob sa panahon ng pandemya? Paano natin binubuo ang pag-asa at lakas ng loob sa gawa at diwa ng ating mga mamamayan nang maharap ang ubod-laking problema katulad ng isang pandemya? Silang is a first-class municipality in the province of Cavite. It is located 45 kilometers south of Manila and 20 kilometers north of Batangas. Our economy is based on agriculture and manufacturing industries. Our population is one of the highest in the entire province. In 2015, it was more or less 250,000. 2020 is quite interesting for Silang. We didn't expect that this would be too memorable. We have been suffering from a series of crises. Noong Enero, kumising na lamang kami isang umaga na balot ng abot-alikabok ang buong bayan, kabilang ang aming mga ari-arian at ang aming mga halaman. Tumigil ang komersyo na paralisa ang pagsasaka. Barely a month after, COVID-19 struck Silang. Our first patient was our first casualty. He was a medical doctor, aside from being an environmentalist and a church leader. He died 3 weeks after he was diagnosed with COVID-19. How then do we respond to this crisis? What does the local government unit of Silang do? Like all other local government units, the local government unit of Silang have been planning, making policies, and implementing programs under the leadership of our mayor, Cory Poblete. But we do it in a special way. We place a special emphasis on people participation or participatory governance. We conduct planning through multi-sectoral consultation and dialogue. We invite stakeholders such as barangay officials, medical doctors, and university professors to give us data from the ground and information from sciences. Next, we make policies through people-oriented legislation. Ang ginagamit naming wika sa paggawa ng polisiya ay ang wikang naunawaan ng lahat, Filipino. We live stream our regular and special session through Facebook Live. We invite concerned sectors when we pass an ordinance or resolution. Amongst the most notable ordinance that we pass are the following: implementing guidelines for enhanced community quarantine and general community quarantine, prohibiting discrimination against COVID-19 patients and medical frontliners, prohibiting price increase in primary commodities, allocating funds for the establishment of isolation facility and procurement of medical supplies, banning use of single use of plastic materials, and ensuring efficient and effective government service even during the times of pandemic. We also implement our programs through the support of non-government organizations. For instance, the LGBT Silang chapter aided us in providing and in preparing food packages, while fraternities and sororities helped our barangay officials in distributing these packages in our communities. Amongst the programs that we've implemented in our municipality are as follows: ayuda sa barangay, ayuda sa magsasaka, ayuda sa mga matatanda, mobile palengke, talipapa sa nayon, and even a series of webinars about livelihood, commerce, and even about our history and culture. What results have we been getting? Ano ang mga resulta na aming natatanggap? Una, sa kalusugan, we registered 260 positive COVID-19 cases out of 4,178 positive cases in the province of Cavite. We also registered 9 deaths, siyamang namatay out of 260 positive cases in the entire town. This is not good, but this is not as bad as we expected. We need to remember that Silang is bounded by citizen municipalities with industrial parks or areas like First Cavite Industrial Estate in Carmona, Cavite, and Laguna Techno Park in Santa Rosa, Laguna. Most of our patients are employees of private companies in these industrial areas. When when the enhanced community quarantine was lifted, our people went back to work. Unfortunately, they went back home with COVID-19. Fortunately, we have quite prevented home transmission. Ilang kaso lamang ang naitala namin na mula sa isang pasyenteng nagtatrabaho sa isang pabrika papunta sa kasamahan niya sa kanilang bahay. That's quite fortunate. In terms of economy, we have been doing our best in order to help our people generate income and sustain livelihood. Halimbawa, nakapagbigay kami ng food package sa mahigit 300,000 kabahayan ng 3 beses. Nakatulong din kami sa pagbubukas ng humigit kumulang na 300 talipapa at mobile palengke. Nakapagbigay din kami ng buto, iba pang pananim, pataba at iba pang gamit sa pagsasaka ng halaga ay maabot ng 45 million pesos. In terms of governance, we have been doing our best in order to ensure an effective and efficient government service even during the times of pandemic. In terms of environment, we are happy to know that we have reduced our waste ng 40%. In terms of culture, we have been receiving comments about their learnings, about the pride and inspiration that they developed and generate after listening to stories about our frontliners and local heroes. In terms of social services, we have provided vitamin package for 12,000 senior citizens and food packages for 12,000 buntis, 2,000 buntis, 2,000 solo parents, 2,000 persons with disabilities, 7,000 drivers, and 6,500 overseas and Filipino workers. Let's cite examples of these positive results. This is one Lola from Barangay Calupco. She has a garden in front and at the back of her house. During the pandemic, she planted this garden with pechay. A month after, she harvested the pechay and she gained 2,500 pesos from her produce. Another story is about a local hero we have in Silang. We celebrate Silang Day every June 9. Ngunit dahil sa pandemya, hindi kami nagkaroon ng isang pagdiriwang sa plaza o sa monumento ng aming bayani. Instead, what I did was I posted a list of veteranos de la Revolucion. This is a list of heroes who fought against Spaniards in 1896 and 1898. The list is from one of our relatives, Elisea Belamide. One of the comments that we got from the Facebook account was this: nakaka-proud naman ang mga kalulololohan natin. This next comment is even more heartwarming. One apo of this bayani was surprised to see the name of his grandfather in this list. Tinanong niya ang tungkol sa kanyang lolo, sa kanyang nabubuhay pang lola. Nagkataon naman na may tabi pang larawan at ilang dokumento ang kanyang lola. At sa katuwaan nitong apo, ay ipinost niya sa Facebook ang larawan ng kanyang lolo kasama ang ilang mga dokumentong pag-aari. At ang kaniyang sinabi sa caption ay, isang pagpupugay para sa ating mga bayaning Senegenyo. Sa isang Facebook post kahapon, Hunyo 2020, ng ating lubang iginagalang ika-20 ng bayan, Aidel Belamide, ay kanyang nabanggit ang mga pangalan ng mga dakilang taong nagbuwis ng buhay upang makamit ang kalayaan ng ating pinakamamahal na bayan ng Silang. Isa sa mga pangalang nakalisa sa talaan ay si Faustino de Vega, ang ama ng aming lola na si Gavina de Vega. Narito ang larawan at ilan sa mga lumang dokumento na naitago ng aming lola ukol sa kanyang ama at aming lolo sa tuhod, our great-grandfather. Mabuhay ang kasaysayan, mabuhay ang bayan ng Silang. Nonetheless, we have our own challenges. We have our own problems. The first challenge is government limitation. The government is limited in terms of information, resources, and manpower. We are limited in information simply because COVID-19 is a new phenomenon that rocked the entire world. We are limited in resources because we need to remember COVID-19 is a second crisis in this year. Before COVID-19, there was the Al eruption in January, early this year. Hence, we have used much of our resources in order to respond to this crisis. We are limited in manpower because responding to COVID-19, combating a highly transmissible disease like COVID-19 is not an easy task. It is a daunting task. But our response is bayanihan. The response of our people is bayanihan. The response of our town is bayanihan. What happened in our humble barrio, Pokdos, is a case in point. Our barrio is just a small barrio, Pokdos. We have more or less 2,000 population and an annual income of 2 million pesos. The budget allocated for disaster response was only less than 100,000 pesos. But despite the meager allocation for disaster response, our barangay council was able to distribute food packages to all households 12 times during the entire enhanced community quarantine. The reason was bayanihan. The solution was bayanihan. A group of young people in our community established an organization which they call Share the Love. What they did was they communicated with the young professionals from our barrio who are now living in nearby cities and abroad. They asked for their help and support, and voila, they were able to generate more or less 200,000 pesos, which they donated to the entire community. Hence, the barangay was able to distribute food packages 12 times to every household in our barrio. The second challenge has been online and offline negativity. Hateful criticisms abound in social media. For instance, I have been called bobo or hindi alam ang ginagawa. This was a situation. Simula pa lamang ito ng COVID-19. And we posted a COVID-19 update about a patient from a certain barrio. We did not post the name and the specific address of the patient as the DOH told us. But the people were asking us who the person was and where the person lived. Because we did not divulge such details, they called us bobo and hindi alam ang ginagawa. But our only response has been communicate. We reach out, we try to put ourselves in their shoes, we try to understand them, and we realize the reason they were angry was because they were afraid. They were afraid was because they were clueless about what was happening in their life and what will happen in their life a few weeks after. Hence, we realize that the only response to hateful criticisms like that is inform, inspire, and empathize. Hence, we continue posting COVID-19 updates and government response to COVID. We also posted stories about our medical frontliners and about our barangay officials in order to inspire hope and to generate support from the community. We had as well public briefing with our Rural Health Unit Officer, Dr. Garcia Guarin, and of course with the Mayor Cory Poblete. The next challenge has been political conflict. Of course, political interests collide. But during moments like this, we always go back to our core. We always go back to the reason why we are here. We always go back to the reason why we are supposed to be here. And that is to serve. Let me end my presentation with my realizations about this pandemic. First, realization on katatagan ng loob, strength. I realized that katatagan ng loob is not just kaya ko, but it is also kaya natin. I will survive not by myself alone, but I will survive because we act together. I can make it not by myself alone. I can make it because we will act together. Hence, kaya ko because kaya natin. I can make it because we will make it. The second realization is on pag-asa, on hope. I realized that hope or pag-asa is both seeing and bearing the light. Pagtingin at pagtangan sa liwanag. When we see the light, that light is reflected on us. Hence, we also become bearer of the light. Pag tumitingin tayo sa liwanag, natatanganan, nahahawakan din natin ang liwanag. Now, if strength is necessarily communal and hope is necessarily shared, what then is the role of leadership? Kung ang tatag ng loob ay pampamayanan at ang pag-asa ay binabahagi, ano na ngayon ang layon ng pamumuno? Ano na ngayon ang nangyayari sa pamumuno? In this case, I realize that leadership ceases to be a one-man rule that sets direction and compels people to move toward that direction. Leadership is reduced to a platform, only a platform, for mutual undertaking and understanding toward collective survival and recovery. Leadership becomes a set of enabling mechanisms for raising, appraising, and realizing collective goals and interests. Leadership is reduced to a platform for collective undertaking and understanding. Leadership is reduced to a set of enabling mechanisms toward community effort, toward communal goals and interests. This is difficult because the pretext is matino at mahusay na pamahalaan. This is even more difficult because the end goal, the end result is matatag at maaasahang mamamayan. But perhaps that is the greatest lesson of this pandemic. We need to bear the burden in order to create a more sustainable future. Magandang gabi at maligayang pagdiriwang ng Araw ng mga Bayani, Pilipinas.
Vice Aidel, maraming salamat sa binigay mong insights na kung anong ginawa ng bayan ng Silang, particularly sa pandemya ito. Kaya lang we're already getting some questions from our viewers on what was your initial reaction on we had parang what you have mentioned kanina, we have Taal and you have COVID. So January was Taal, March was actually COVID. So nung Taal pa lang, Aidel, I mean how can you Taal has been there, has been silent for the longest time. So, how did Taal parang take in by of course by Silang, by the Silangeños?
We were really shocked. We did not think that that would happen. Literally, we woke up with our entire town covered in ash. It was both shocking and frightening. It was both frightening and saddening. Kasi sabi nila, malungkot daw ang makakaramdam ka daw ng lungkot kapag balot ng niebe ang buong lugar. Kung ikaw ay nasa Amerika o sa lugar na bumabagsak ang mga niebe. Pero tingin ko, hindi lungkot kung hindi habag at pangamba ang mararamdaman mo kapag gumising ka isang araw na balot ng abot alikabok ang iyong buong bahay at ang lahat ng iyong pinaghirapang mga halaman, tanim na halaman ay pinabagsak ng mga abot alikabok na ito. Hence at first, we were shocked. We were shocked. It's as if natigilan talaga kami na hindi namin alam kung anong aming gagawin. But then, we realized we had to stand up, we had to move on, we had to move forward as a town. And little by little, slowly we were able to move together and respond to the crisis in a strong and wise manner.
Aidel, when you say that, so malamang if it started January, mga bandang March, how do you say it? Are you on a point of recovery na, or parang you're still cleaning up what the January of the Taal event has caused?
Cleaning up was easy. I mean, you can do it in a few days, in a week, no? But what's difficult is standing up.
Yeah.
Madaling makinis. Ang mahirap ay muling tumindig dahil nakita mo na sira ang iyong pananim at tumigil ang iyong negosyo. Ang aming ginagawa nung panahon na yon, bago magkaroon ng COVID-19 ay nagsisimula kami na tumindig. Nagbibigay kami ng tulong sa aming mga magsasaka, nag-iimbita kami ng mga profesor mula sa pamantaasan ng Pilipinas para mabigyan ng impormasyon ng aming mga magsasaka kung anong kailangan nilang gawin para muling mabuhay ang kanilang mga halaman kung may natitira pa. Ang mga taga Batangas na pansamantalang nanirahan sa mga taga Silang ay unti-unti sa kanilang bahay. So nagkakaroon na ng kahit papaano ay kapayapaan sa aming mga kalooban dahil nakikita namin na muli unti-unti nang sumisigla ang aming bayan. 1 month after COVID-19 struck Silang.
So Aidel, with all of these things, so January, I mean, you're already very busy taking care of of Taal, of the remnants of Taal. Then here comes COVID-19. Aidel being a public servant, alam mong marami rin na magsasabi na, well, of course, public servants, tao lang rin naman. So on this end, with all of this crisis coming in, and nadagdagan pa nga nitong COVID, on your end as a public servant, and our viewers want to know, how do you distress with all of this situation and keep yourself mentally sane and as well as physically healthy to face all of these challenges?
Sa mga pagkakataong naguguluhan, sa mga pagkakataong hindi mo alam ang dapat mong gawin, yung palagi ko lang pinupuntahan ay simbahan para magkaroon ng kapayapaan ng aking kalooban, para humingi ng karunungan, para humingi ng katatagan. And I think that has been my secret why I've been able to sustain my sanity, and I've been passionate in delivering the best service that I can render for our people. It's my faith in the Lord. It's my faith in God.
Even this kind of pandemic happening, it really completely redefined leadership and public service, as what you have mentioned nga. Parang what is very explicit now, meron tayong mga serbisyong publiko na hindi na rin magagawa because of the restrictions in, of course, on social distancing, on, of course, yung ano to, all of this parang um, restrictions that's been made, particularly in close contact with people. So, on your end, as a public servant, how do you translate it to the next level na, di ba, either like, I mean, like, ano to, commonly, people would really see, ano to, public servants really going to the houses, ano to, mangangamay, magtatanong. So, how do you move this to the next level? Pero at the end of the day, mararamdaman pa rin ng tao na yung pagsiservisyo at yung presensya ng gobyerno nandiyan.
Well, in terms of legislation, we've been using technology in order to do our task, in order to respond to the crisis. For instance, instead of face-to-face session, council session, we've been doing sessions, we have been conducting our sessions through Zoom. Dati Skype, nag-shift kami ng Zoom. Aside from that, patuloy pa rin naman yung aming public hearing, pero hindi na rin face-to-face. Ang ginagamit namin din ay Zoom. We also post our ordinances and resolutions in social media like Facebook. Next week, we are launching our website through which people can access our ordinances and resolutions and where they can view the videos of our regular and special session. So it is technology that allows us to fulfill our tasks during times of pandemic.
So even on this end, wala namang parang normally pag pag technology ang isipin natin, parang sasabihin ng tao, ay nako, masyado na kaming matanda for that, yung signal may problema. So how do you really encourage particularly itong mga ating mga Silangenyos to really embrace technology and take part na talagang malamang ito na yung magiging pamamaraan para sa new normal.
Nakakatuwa kasi sa Silang dahil kahit yung mga lolo't lola may Facebook account at nag-uusap-usap sila sa Messenger. At nakakatuwa din kasi bago naman dumating tong pandemya, tong crisis na ito ay okay naman ang connectivity, ang internet connectivity sa Silang. So we don't suffer from poor internet connection.
Pero we salute you, Aidel, for that kasi totoo nga talaga na well, even if I'm not from Silang, we really watched your sessions, and I think this is a good eye-opener for the rest of the local government units in the Philippines as well to do a good benchmarking na talaga may mga pamamaraan tayo na hindi rin natin maiiwasan, particularly sa teknolohiya na kailangan nating yakapin, lalong-lalo na para hindi natin ma-violate yung social distancing na binibigay din ng gobyerno.
Right. Because
yeah.
We can stop working, no? We can stop serving the public. In fact, we need to work more. We need to serve better because yun ang hinahanap sa atin ng pagkakataon. Yun ang kinakailangan sa atin ng pagkakataon. I think it was Vice President Leni Robredo who said na sa pinakamahihirap na sitwasyon, nangangailangan ng pinakamahuhusay na pinuno. Parang we need to be most competent in the most difficult times. We need to give our best during the most difficult times. Kaya naman, we have to respond to that call. And by responding to that call means you need to be creative, you need to be innovative. You need to use whatever resources that you have in order to do your task, and in order to do your task well. There's no excuse for public service. There's no reason for giving up. There's only the challenge that you have to respond every day that you wake up.
Actually, tama yan, Vice Aidel, yung pagtugon sa pangangailangan ng lahat. Vice, may mga nagtatanong rin dito, ano yung nakita, I mean like, you've been in the public service for the longest time. Ano yung nakita mong kakaiba or something unique sa mga Silangenyos, particularly itong taal at itong pandemic na to? So ano yung mga nakita mong kakaiba na medyo nagulat ka sa pamamaraan na hindi mo inaasahan na ganito yung magiging reaction nila, particularly this pandemic. You have mentioned before on bayanihan. Can you expound further on that on that note para maintindihan ng lahat?
I think this is not something na this is not something that Silangenians monopolize. I mean, this is not just present in Silang, but I believe this is present in the entire Philippines, and this is present in the entire world. Simply because we are humans, and by being human beings, we consider the other people as important, no? I mean, Filipinos call it kapwa. Yeah, one of the things that I'm grateful of is I've been a witness to deep sense of community, deep sense of brotherhood and sisterhood in Silang, which I think is one of the reasons why we are hopeful and one of the reasons why we will survive this pandemic. It is the strength of our community. It is the deep sense of brotherhood and sisterhood. It is the unity of our people that will allow us to survive this pandemic. It is not just because the leaders are good. It is not just because our barangay officials are knowledgeable about their task. It is not just because our doctors are competent. It is not just because we have hospitals or not just because we have internet connectivity. It is because we have shown in the past, we have shown in our history, and we've been showing it during these times of pandemic that we can be united, that we can work together, that we can move as one. I told you a story about what happened in our barrio, Pupok. I mean, mga kababayan, kung pupunta kayo sa aming barrio, isa lamang itong simple at maliit na pamayanan na bago ka makarating ay tatawid ka ng ilog. Katulad ng nabanggit ko, ang aming pondong inilaan para sa disaster risk reduction and management ay wala pang 100,000, pero nakapagbigay ang aming barangay ng ayuda sa bawat tahanan ng 12 beses. It is not because the barangay captain was good. It was not because it was not because the councilors have been helping the barangay captain. It's not just that. It's not just the end of a story. The meat of a story, the core of a story is because maraming tao sa aming barangay, sa aming komunidad, ang tumulong sa mga opisyal ng aming barangay para makailak ng pondo at maibahagi yon sa aming mga mamamayan. A very good story of bayanihan, which I, as an official, as a public servant, would never forget. Will always be a lesson that I will treasure, and perhaps I will always tell whenever there is an occasion like this.
And I think Vice Aidel, talagang lumalabas yung init na kabutihan ng tao to really reach out and really become more creative in helping out. Lalo na ito may mga pandemyang may mga pandemya tayong nararanasan sa kasalukuyan. Vice, going to because today is National Heroes Day. Yeah,
sorry.
Okay.
Let me say a few more things about bayanihan and about our people. I told you a while ago that the value that makes me sane, that makes me hopeful, is my faith in God. But bayanihan is also one of the reasons why I can sustain my hope and my faith. It's because I believe in our people. It's because I believe in our community. That yun nga, we can move together, we can act together in order to solve this crisis.
Okay, thank you for that, Vice. Since today is our National Heroes Day, we just want to little bit dig deeper in your thoughts on heroism and leadership. At this point in time, do you have your inspiring leader of all times? I mean, your take on this.
Ben, I go for the classics, no? My most loved leader of all times is my most loved hero of all times. The classic Gat Jose Rizal. That's not a joke, ha? That's not cute. That's really my leader and hero of all times. I remember when I was a when I was young, my screensaver for my phone is the photo of our hero. When I was a student, when I was in college, the first notes in my notebook were his words. I have been an admirer of his passion for excellence, his bravery to know and fight for what is true and what is right, and for his persistence to make his life worth living. Whenever I go to the office, I would always look at the monument in front of our municipal building and I will ask myself, tama na ba? Sapat na ba? And I will always answer those questions, hindi pa, marami pa, malayo pa. At magsisilang ng pag-asa at tatag ng loob para higit na maglingkod sa aking kapwa at sa aming bayan.
Well, true enough, Vice. I think whatever ano to, all the works of our national hero Gato Rizal really resonates in all fronts, and talagang ano to, it creates a significant impact of his works, particularly ano to, in your action as a public servant. How about ano to, in being a leader, parang some young people are asking din, when you are confronted with challenges, how do you easily get how do you get up and actually be okay again? So I think being a public servant, maraming challenges. Given naman talaga siya. Pero paano ka ano to? Paano ka gumigising uli na okay ako? I mean, like, what are the ano to? What, I don't know, how do you call it, secrets or tips that you could actually give our viewers on, in terms of like when there are challenges, how do you get up again?
When I was starting as a student leader, I have been hearing from I've been hearing from my I had been hearing from my mentors, go back to your core. Your core is your why, your reason, your purpose. My mentors told me that when you're in doubt, when you're frustrated, when you're tired, you just need to sit down, reflect, and there, go back to your core, to your purpose, to your reason. I am very fortunate, Ben, because I think my core is strong. My reason is clear. And I considered it a gift from the Lord, a blessing from God. Because I can say, not all government officials have a strong core. Not all government officials have a clear reason why they are in the government. The reason why we have problems in the government because of that. We don't know our core. We don't know why we are here. I was first invited to run for public office in 2010. I was a fresh graduate from UP. I was just 21 years old at the time. I was introduced to a senator, a governor, and to the rest of our town officials. But I knew I was half-hearted. So after that grand meeting, I went to church in Tagaytay, Pink Sisters. Unfortunately, it was closed. So I went to another church, Simbahan ng Lourdes, but it was also closed. I decided to go back to Silang, to my hometown, to the church in the plaza, Nuestra Senora de Candelaria. It was also closed. But luckily, the convent, I looked for the priests. I asked for a few minutes so that I can make confession. The priest granted me time. He asked me the most important question of my entire career as a public official. Bakit mo gustong tumakbo? I was honest. I said, sabi po nila, mananalo ako. The priest was even more candid. He replied, hindi ka tatakbo dahil mananalo ka. Tatakbo ka dahil maglilingkod ka. There I got my core. There I got my purpose, my reason. The only reason for running for a public post is to serve. No other reason. Not because of a chance, not because you want fame, but because you want to serve the public. No if, no buts. And I realized, if I would run for a post, even if I was not ready, I was so different from politicians who are convicted of graft and corruption. Hindi ko man pagsamantalahan ang kaba ng bayan, pinagsasamantalahan ko naman ang tiwala ng mga mamamayan. Walang pinagkaiba sa mga nagnanakaw official. So I decided not to run. I took my master's in anthropology at the Ateneo. Then I was invited again to run. I took the chance because I thought I was ready. Unfortunately, people believed in me. They voted for me, and I won a post in the council. One term after, I ran for a higher post, that of the vice mayor. We won, and 3 years after, I got my second term. I really believe that God brought me where I am right now in order to serve His people, in order to serve His flock.
Very well said, Vice Aidel. And I think on that end, you actually uncover your purpose in public service. Vice, of course, on we want to hear it from you in terms of the leadership trait that Filipinos must have this time. I mean, of course, you have mentioned bayanihan, but can you cite, let's say, one or two leadership traits that Filipinos must have, especially in this kind of very dynamic change in this pandemic reality? Your thoughts on the Filipino traits?
Pag-asa at pagkakaisa. We cannot lose hope. We cannot lose belief in ourselves, in our people. We need to sustain that hope no matter how. Kahit it's fading, kahit namamatay-matay, but we need to sustain the light. We need to sustain our hope because it is only through hoping and believing that we can get through this. Second, yun nga, pagkakaisa, no? We really need to move together, no, in order to move forward, in order to solve this problem. I shared in my presentation that katatagan ng loob is not just kaya ko, it has to be kaya natin. Kasi true enough naman, oo nga, protektahan mo yung sarili mo, mag-face mask ka. Kung hindi naman naka-face mask yung katabi mo, hindi ka rin maliligtas. Kahit ang tanging paraan lamang para maligtas ay magtulungan tayo at magkaisa. Protektahan natin ang bawat isa.
Okay, thank you for that, Vice. And well, not to induce a brand, para kanino ka gumigising araw-araw?
Okay. That's very Nestle. Well, this is not also pakyuta, but this is really the truth. This is one of my principles. No? This is one of my tenets. Ad Madiorem Dei Gloriam, for the greater glory of God. When I wake up in the morning, I always pray that whatever I do will make people feel God's mercy. Whatever I say will make people feel God's love. No? Na ang lahat ng gagawin ko ay maging instrumento ng pagpapala ng Panginoon sa kanyang mga mamamayan. Hence, I wake up for the greater glory of God. I wake up in service para sa kanyang mabuting plano para sa kanyang mga mamamayan.
Okay, thank you for that, Vice. I mean, very remarkable. Vice, we have may pahabol on the comment section. I think this is from Silang. Ang question niya is, how would an individual start their own initiative to serve the public? Siguro ito yung mga, Vice Aidel, ito yung mga kabataan na, gustong tumulong. Siguro your personal thoughts on this. We were student leaders before. How could you advise them to start kaya?
Just do it. Just do it right away. Just give what you can give. Just do what you can do. Gawin mo lang. If you have friends who can help you do it, then better. If none, then just do it. Gawin mo lang. Huwag ka lang mapanghinaan ng loob. Huwag ka lang huwag ka lang mapanghinaan ng loob. Gawin mo lang, just do it, no?
Okay, so to our viewers, so yan. Tama ako Vice, totally agree. Gawin mo lang kasi kung magpapadalos-dalos ka pa, mawawala yung drive mo, mawawala. So, kung meron kang gustong gawin, push for it. And actually, Vice, we have very limited time, but we will give you the floor for your closing message for our viewers and for all those who are listening, particularly on the topic on serving the public in this pandemic reality. Go ahead, Vice.
Sa akin po mga kababayan sa Silang at sa buong Pilipinas, naniniwala po ako na sa pamamagitan ng pagkakaisa at pananampalataya ay malalampasan po natin ang pandemya na ito. Naniniwala po ako sa talino at sa lakas ng ating kapwa Pilipino na malalampasan po natin ang krisis na ito. Kailangan lang nating huwag panawan, kailangan lang nating tanganan ng pag-asa, kailangan lang nating paniwalaan ang isa't isa at pagpapalain tayo ng Panginoon. Marami pong salamat at maligayang pagdiriwang, makabuluhang pagdiriwang ng Araw ng mga Bayani.
Bilang pagtatapos sa pananalita ni Gat Jose Rizal, bukas magiging mamamayan tayo ng Pilipinas kung saan ang kapalaran niya ay magiging maganda sapagkat nasa mapagkalinga siyang mga kamay. Maraming salamat, Vice Mayor Aidel Belamide, sa mga aral na iyong iniwan. Sa ating mga viewers, huwag po nating kalimutan ang mag-post-register para sa mga e-certificates. At uulitin po natin, Luzon, Visayas, Mindanao. Magandang gabi po sa inyong lahat. Mahalin natin ang nag-iisa nating bayang Pilipinas. Good evening to everyone.
Salamat, Ben. God bless us all.
Thank you, Aidel. Salamat.